Hello, hello. Welcome again to another episode here of my tier list. Today we'll be looking at arguably the best pure spellcaster, arguably, because I may have some thoughts on that, but what is considered one of the best utility pure spellcasters here in D&D 5th edition, and that is, of course, the Wizard. So let's go and get right on into it here. All right, I'm pumped. I'm excited. Let's go. Tier list. F tier means unplayable. That simply means that if you choose this subclass, I'm afraid that you are going to realize very quickly that all of their abilities are either not assisting you in any way or actually hindering you. They are forcing you into positions or situations that are actually bad given the rest of your class. D tier means that it is situational at best. All right, so in very specific situations, the class could be useful, but besides those situations, you will be very much striving for basically mediocrity or just not really being good at anything, to be honest. C tier means mediocre. You won't be good, you won't be bad, but there might be a couple of things that make the class decent. But you're going to find yourself very kind of, middle of the road. All right, you're never going to be the worst, but you're also never going to be the best, just down the middle. B tier means not bad. All right, it means it's solid choice, it's a good choice, but there might just be something about it that's missing, something about it that's lacking. It might be, an early subclass ability that just doesn't really bring anything to the party, which sadly, since most most D&D campaigns usually only last first or second tier, those early abilities really, really matter because those are the abilities that we will be using the most throughout our character's campaign. So it might be something like that. It might be, lacking of a good spell list or an ability, or it may just have some conflicting things that the rest of the class just doesn't help out with. Whatever the situation, B tier, not bad, but could be better. Lastly, here we have our A tier, which are solid choices. You can't go wrong with any of them. They're all good. Which then, out of that list, I do pull my S tier, which is the best absolute subclass, in my opinion, for this class. So, before we get into it here, we need to talk for just a second here about the Wizard and the fact that it is indeed considered the best pure caster in D&D 5e. The reason I make this a point is because, one, although I may disagree, to be perfectly honest, I do think the Sorcerer definitely gives the Wizard more run for its money than most people generally do. I do find that most people who complain about the Sorcerer are like, well, yeah, it's because you're playing a Sorcerer. Fucking go play a Wizard, and you'll have way more fun being a Wizard. And I understand their point. And the point is, what's nice about being a Wizard is that a Wizard has the ability to learn so many spells. I think it's something like 90-something%. It's like 80 to 90% of all the spells in 5th edition the Wizard can learn. And the fact that once a Wizard learns it, quote, quote, which basically means that they put it in their spell book, then it's there. Now, they have to still prep it for the day, but it's there. If a Wizard learns Alarm, then they have Alarm for as long as they have that spell book, which is really, really nice. And if there's a day where they need it, then they can prep it. If there's a day they don't need it, they don't have to prep it, but it's still there. Versus, like, say, the Bard versus, say, the Sorcerer, in which you have a very set amount of spells, and those are the only spells and they are a little focused, which means they don't have the utility that the Wizard does. The utility is absolutely the utility powerhouse when it comes to pure spellcasters because of the amount of spells that they can learn and the fact that they get to prep, the spells that they want every single day. That's very, very beneficial. So, with that considered, we have to look at the tier list here a little differently. And what I mean by that is that up until now, most of my tier lists, in fact, I don't want to say all my tier lists, they are where they are compared to the rest of all of D&D subclasses. The Wizard, however, is going to be a little bit different because the Wizard has, it is, in my opinion, if it is not the best pure spellcaster, then it is the second best pure spellcaster. And because of that, we're going to kind of have to look at the Wizard a little bit differently. So instead of looking at it from the grand scheme of, all the other subclasses and comparing it, instead we're just going to say, hey, we are only comparing Wizard subclasses to other Wizard subclasses, which is going to maybe explain why some of these are going to be where they are. But we'll get there, all right? So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into it here with F tier. Yes, there is an F tier in a Wizard. Now, because the wizard is alone good, should it not follow the same rule as, like, say, the bard, where even the worst bard subclasses cannot be an F tier because it's a bard? Even the base bard is good. Normally, yes, but again, this is the wizard. We're only looking at the wizard here. We're going to compare a wizard subclass to another wizard subclass, not a wizard subclass to the rest of your 5th edition stuff. And so because of that, there is a wizard that if you compare all the other wizards together, you're like, this one sucks. I don't understand why people would play it. And that is why it is in my F tier, and that is the War Magic wizard. Alright, Arcane Deflection. At 2nd level, you have learned to weave your magic to fortify yourself against harm. When you are hit by an attack where you fail a saving throw, you can use your reaction to gain a +2 bonus to your AC against the attack, or +4 to your saving throw. When you use this feature, you can't cast spells other than cantrips until the end of your next turn. I don't know who the fuck thought that this was going to be a good ability. That first 2 sentences sounds great, right? +2 to my AC, +4 to my saving throw, perfect. But when you use this feature, you can't cast spells other than cantrips until the end of your next turn. So that means that not only is this using my reaction, which means usually wizards are usually the ones that are the ones that, reactions are kind of heavy on a wizard. It's the wizard that's expected to have things like, Featherfall. It's the wizard that's expected to have things like Counterspell. We're using our reaction to just give ourselves a little bit of a bonus, a +2 bonus to an AC or a +4 to an attack, which, by the way, this is only a single attack or only a single saving throw. So against one attack, I'm using my reaction and I'm making it so I can only cast a cantrip next turn. Maybe at like level 1, this isn't horrible, because at level 1 you only have like 1 or 2 fucking spell slots anyway, so it's like, I'm going to be spamming my cantrips anyway at early levels. But eventually it's like, once you get to like 5th level, 6th level, tier 2, tier 3, where every turn of combat you could throw out a blight or a banishment or a finger of death or a fireball. To know that you're locking yourself out of that and you're going to have to rely on just a stupid cantrip because of this ability, I don't know. I don't understand why they thought that this was good. Tactical Wit. At 2nd level, you have keen ability to assess tactical situations. You can give yourself a bonus to your initiative rolls equal to your intelligence modifier. Okay. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's not a horrible ability, but I mean, it's an ability that only happens in combat, and it will only happen for a single die roll in combat. And it's only going to be your intelligence modifier. So +3 to +5. Alright, Power Surge. At 6th level, you can store magical energy within yourself to later empower your damaging spells. You can store a maximum number of spell surges equal to your intelligence modifier. So 3 to 5, on average. Whenever you finish a long rest, your number of Power Surge resets to 1. Whenever you successfully end a spell with Dispel Magic or Counterspell, you gain 1 Power Surge as you steal magic from the spell you foiled. If you end a short rest with no Power Surges, you gain 1. Once per turn, when you deal damage to a creature or object with a wizard spell, you can spend 1 Power Surge to deal extra force damage to that target. The extra damage equals half of your wizard level. Okay, here's the problem with this. So here we are at 6th level being told that, hey, you should use your reaction to cast Counterspell so that you can store power surges, or use your action to cast a 3rd level spell like Dispel Magic to gain power surges, so that then when you deal damage on, with your next spell or something, you can use one of these power surges, to increase the damage here of what you're trying to do. What did we get at 2nd level? We got an ability that said we had to use a reaction to save our own asses, and the next turn, we can't cast spells. So we literally have 2 conflicting abilities. This is the opposite of what makes a good subclass. A good subclass is when abilities build off of each other. They make each other better. We get something at 2nd level, 3rd level, whenever we get our subclass, and then the other abilities grow off of it, make it better, make it stronger, make it so that we feel like we truly are part of this subclass. This is literally a subclass that we get something at 2nd level that conflicts. We have to choose between 2nd and 6th level. This whole setup is awful. And the extra damage equal to half your wizard level, I mean, at 6th level, that's 3, right? And don't forget about what you're having to do here. You're having to counterspell. Alright, and I have to successfully counterspell. I have to successfully dispel magic, which means here are 3rd level spell slots, because that's where both dispel magic and counterspell lie. I have to use 3rd level spell slots in order to, in order to store my power surge. What spells are in 3rd level? Haste, Fly, Fireball, Lightning Bolt. Fantastic damaging spells, and I'm giving up that spell slot to instead store power surges so that I can add, at this point, 3 points of damage. Not only does this 6th level ability literally go against, it bounces my arcane deflection. Not only does it do that, but it's a pointless ability. I wouldn't use this until I'm like level fucking 20 anyway, because then at least it's like, okay, now I have power surges. Now that, they at least do like 10 points of damage. Add that on my cantrips. Maybe now my cantrips aren't shit, but even then I only have a certain amount, and I can only have an amount equal to my intelligence modifier. This ability is shitty to begin with, and the fact it goes against our 2nd level ability, this is what I mean when I say that, we have cumbersome, half-assed, half-thought-out abilities, and they're just rambled together. F tier, all the goddamn way. Alright, durable magic. At 10th level, your magic channel helps ward off harm. While you maintain concentration on a spell, you have a +2 bonus to your AC and all saving throws. Whoop-de-dingle fucking do. Okay? A 2 to our AC and our saving throws. We're a wizard. I have the oddest feeling that most of our ACs are probably going to be anywhere between about 16 to 17, right? Because I bet you our dex is probably not going to be the craziest of numbers, and we're probably running around with mage armor on. So, okay, so instead of a 15 AC, I have a 17 AC. And +2 to saving throws, I guess. But I have to be concentrating on a spell for it to happen? This is my 10th level ability? Really? Most campaigns end at the end of tier 2, beginning of tier 3, which means this is going to be the, statistically, where 60 to 70% of all campaigns are going to end right around this location, which means this is going to be, the last ability my class gets. Fucking, I'm multi-class, bitch. I'll get something better. Alright, Deflecting Shroud. At 14th level, your arcane deflection becomes infused with deadly magic. When you use your arcane deflection feature, you can cause magical energy to arc from you. Up to 3 creatures of your choice within 60 feet of you take force damage equal to half of your wizard level. Great. Here we are once again, another one where it's like, okay, power surge. Not only does that suck and it's deflecting against arcane deflection, now we're going to bump arcane deflection and once again force you to have to decide which of these is better. One that gives us a little bit of a bonus to our shit, and then, deals some damage here to some enemies within 60 feet of us, which isn't much, by the way. It's only half of our wizard level, which at this case, this point is 7 points of damage. Or do we use our power surge ability? Because we can only choose one. This is why this class is F tier. Alright, D tier, we have the Illusion School. Illusion Savant. Beginning at the 2nd level, half magic, in order to put an illusion spell into our spellbook. Alright, also at 2nd level, we have Improved Minor Illusion. When you choose a school at 2nd level, you learn the Minor Illusion cantrip. If you already know this cantrip, you learn a different wizard cantrip of your choice. The cantrip doesn't count against the number of cantrips known. When you cast Minor Illusion, you can create both a sound and an image with a single casting of the spell. Okay. I mean, I guess if you're creative, if you're playing a campaign where illusions will matter, where you need to, kind of, trick people, I guess, maybe, possibly. But Minor Illusion is not the best of cantrips, and you have to be very, very creative with how you use this, and I find that a lot of the time, it's the DMs that are actually the most like, oh, you're trying to cast this Minor Illusion, okay, my enemy is going to get to try and see right through it. Like, it's just, and if that's what happens every time you use a cantrip, I just, nah. Like, it's okay. I understand the theme that they're going for, but I wish that they would have come out stronger than this. 6th level, we have Malleable Illusions. When you create an illusion spell that has a duration of 1 minute or longer, you can use your action to change the nature of the illusion, and using the spell's normal parameters for the illusion, provided that you can see the illusion. In other words, those illusion spells that say, hey, you can create this kind of illusion, but once it's cast, it's set in stone. What this is saying is that once you've created the illusion, you can, at any time, use your action to change the parameters of it, or change, what the illusion looks like. So if, say, you've created a candle, at a table, and it's hiding something, right? You've made the object, the MacGuffin that you're trying to hide, look like a candle or a barrel in the corner. And someone walks by, and as they walk by, the candle doesn't move because it's an illusion. So maybe it's lacking a little bit of smell, maybe the flame isn't moving the way it should, and maybe the DM is a dick, and he's like, hey, the person kind of looks back and is looking at that candle, wondering why it isn't waving in the wind he just created, or why that barrel didn't creak the way that all the other barrels did when stepped near. And so you can use your action to make something happen and maybe give more believability to the illusion. The reason I hate this ability, I'm not saying it's a bad ability necessarily, the reason I personally hate it is because I hate abilities that are so DM dependent, because I don't know how your DM is. I know how I would treat this ability at my table because I would rather give to my players than take away. I would rather give it to them first, and then if later on I'm like, holy shit, this is really broken, then we can go back and we can talk about it. I would rather that than immediately just throw a wall up and say, yep, nope, I'm going to read this word for word, and how it's worded is how we're going with it, and no thoughts. So at my table, this would definitely be treated differently than maybe at your table. And because I don't know that, I don't like giving, good rankings to an ability that relies so heavily on a DM and their opinion. All right, 14th ability here, 14th level, we have illusory reality. You have learned the secret of weaving shadow magic in your illusions to give them semi-reality. When you cast an illusion spell of first level or higher, you can choose one inanimate, non-magical object as part of the illusion and make that object real. You can do this on your turn as a bonus action while the spell is ongoing. The object remains real for 1 minute. For example, you create the illusion of a bridge over a chasm and then make it real long enough for your allies to cross. The object cannot deal damage or otherwise directly harm anyone, so you cannot create an illusion of a chandelier above someone's head and having the illusion fall on them, because that would be directly harming them. However, I do love this. Anytime to me, this is what the illusion school is all about, right? Like, this is, to me, the cool shit. Making an illusion real. This is, it is limited only by your creativity, but also by your DM discretion. Because who knows, the DM may very well rule that, hey, you building a bridge and then walking across it and then waiting for the enemies to get halfway and then dispelling it, making it go back to being normal. I mean, that's technically causing them harm. If it wasn't for your illusion, they wouldn't be harmed. So therefore, they are causing harm by the illusion. Would I rule it that way? Absolutely not. I'd be, because according to the ruling, the object cannot deal damage, which it's not, or directly harm them. Like I said, it's not like something heavy landing on their foreheads. But it comes down to DM discretion. And I feel like that's the whole problem with this school, is I understand what they're trying to go, I understand what the illusion wizard is trying to be, but just so much of it just comes down to how good the DM is going to be when it comes to accepting these rules. And if the DM is even the slightest bit willing to be kind of a dick when it comes to it, you will find that this is not a fun class. So many of your illusions are going to be seen through, even though you can make them way better than anybody else. Like, for some reason, every enemy just knows that it's an illusion and they walk through it, or they're not affected by it. And so then the 14th level ability is the only one where it's like, a DM can't tell you that that bridge isn't real because it says in your ability, you can make your illusion real for 1 minute. But again, until you get to that 14th level ability, all the rest is just kind of which is why D tier. Also in D tier, I have my necromancy school. I had a player play necromancy, and I ended up having about halfway through giving him a ring. What did I call it? It was like the ring of the pyramid or something. It was like ring of the pyramid tomb or skull tomb or some shit. Long story short, it was basically just a way to bump up his necromancy school because we realized just how not good it was halfway through the campaign. All right, necromancy savant. We get half the time to make necromancy spells in our spellbook. Also, at second level, you gain the ability to reap life energy from creatures you kill. Once per turn, when you kill one or more creatures with a spell of first level or higher, you regain hit points equal to twice the spell level, or 3 times if the spell belongs to the necromancy school. You don't gain this benefit for killing constructs or undead. Undead are very, very common. I think that if you probably in most campaigns, especially if they're kind of more open world, kind of, out there a little bit and allowing players to kind of really go out and explore things like tombs and ruins and abandoned castles, undead cover a lot of ground. You have ghosts, you have poltergeists, you have wraiths, you have zombies, you have skeletons, skeleton archers, and way fucking more, right? Like there's a dozen undead creatures that you can throw out there. So because, I think it would be safe to assume that 25%, 1 out of every 5 creatures that you fight might fall into either the construct or undead, mostly the undead, but construct or undead category, which means, you may be surprised how often this doesn't work. Secondly, regaining health twice the spell level, which means on average, right, for the majority of your spell career, you're only regaining 2 to maybe 4 hit points a turn. You're a wizard, which anytime you can regain hit points is nice, but you're still a wizard. You still have the smallest health pool in the whole fucking game, right? Like you and the sorcerer are tied, which means that, so what if you're regaining 2 hit points? If you only have 9 maximum hit points or 10 maximum hit points, it doesn't matter if you regain 2, it's still going to take 2 hits to fucking kill you. So it's like, so until you get to like, you may look at something like, say, well, what about the, finger of death? We have, I believe that is a 7th level spell. It's necromancy. That means I would regain 21 hit points that turn. You're right. That's a pretty big chunk. It's also 7th level, which means you have to be like level, 14 in order to unlock it? 13? Like, you got to be so fucking high. So, it's an okay ability, but it's very situational. It only happens in combat. You have to be the one to kill it. It says once per turn when you kill a creature, which means you have to be the one to deliver the final blow. So, you're going to be kind of a kill janitor. All right, that's an old fucking term. That's an old fucking like Halo 3 term for me. But, you're going to be a janitor here where you're just basically going to be you're going to be waiting for your big bruisers to go in there and fuck everything up and then, coming in at the end and delivering the final blows. It's just, this is a very situational ability. All right, Undead Thrall is a 6th level. You add the Animate Dead spell to your spellbook. If it is not already there, when you cast Animate Dead, you can target 1 additional corpse, creating another zombie or skeleton as appropriate. Whenever you create an undead using a necromancy spell, it has additional benefits. 1, the creature's hit point maximum is increased by an amount equal to your wizard level. I like that it's wizard and not half wizard. I like it's your full wizard level. The creature adds your proficiency bonus to its weapon damage rolls as well, because zombies and skeletons have, I think, like a +3 to hit. So, by 6th level, that's I think that's a 3 on there. I think they get proficiency bonus increase at 6th level. So, now it's like a +5, +6 to hit. So, that could be, well, that's a much nicer to hit than a 2, right? This is good. This is a good little ability. It's interesting. If I had to gripe about it, it is the fact that it does require me to go find piles of bones and corpses, which, depending on the party makeup, this may be something, if this is like worst case scenario, you have like a holy devout paladin, oath of protector or something, and is just like absolutely against you desecrating this, or a cleric of Palor or something. Like, this is something that, like, don't get me wrong, this is something you and your friends, like, you figure out, like, it might be kind of fun to have someone playing with the dead, while at the same time having a party member that's like, how dare you do this? It could be interesting, but I don't know. I also find that usually whenever a player has the ability to summon loads of very squishy, low AC, low health, because even with your wizard level, it's going to make an 11 health 17, which isn't horrible. I just find that big groups of player toys usually gets to be the victim of the very first surprise fireball. So all I'm saying is that you may find yourself creating these pile of bones and then them reverting back to being piles of bones very, very quickly every combat. But hey, right? It's something, right? I like the vibe that it goes, so it's decent. All right, inured to undeath. At 10th level, you have resistance to necrotic damage. Okay. And your hit point maximum cannot be reduced. Did you know that if you play a... oh god, I'm blanking right now. The celestial winged race. Why the fuck am I drawing such a blank? It'll come to me at some random time, I'm sure. But if you play a particular race, you can literally choose to be, I think it's even immune to necrotic damage. It's either resistant or immune to necrotic damage. So that's not such a big deal. You can literally just choose a race and get that instead. Making it so that your hit point maximum cannot be reduced, that is nice. There are a number of enemies. I find that especially when Mom... the Monsters of the Multiverse, when that book came out, I think it made me realize just how many monsters. I think Wizards of the Coast realized that, wow, we may have fucked up by giving a whole bunch of classes the ability to heal. So what they did is they introduced this mechanic of I mean, they've had it for a while, obviously, but they really started to pump out monsters that had the mechanic of lowering your hit point maximum when they attacked you. So the fact that you are immune to that is not bad. But again, you're the smallest hit point pool in the game with D6s. You will probably have the least amount of hit points out of everybody in your whole fucking team. So, I mean, sure, you know, your hit point maximum might not being reduced, but you're still dying in 3 hits. So, you know, it's a give and take situation. All right, you've spent so much time dealing with undead and forces that animate them that you've become inured to some of their worst effects. Yeah. It's one of their abilities you get by just choosing a particular race, and then their other one, Aasimar. There we go, the fucking Aasimars. They're the ones, if you pick, you can choose to either being resistant to necrotic or radiant damage. The hit point maximum, it's okay, but it's situational, because again, you have to fight something that actually does this ability. So basically, this whole 10th level ability can be completely obsolete by just being in a campaign where maybe that ability just isn't used, having hit point maximum reduced, or just choosing to be an Aasimar. At 14th level, we have Command Undead. At 14th level, you can use magic to bring undead under your control, even those created by other wizards. As an action, you can choose one undead that you can see within 60 feet of you. The creature must make a charisma saving throw against your DC. If it succeeds, you cannot use this feature again. If it fails, though, it becomes friendly to you and obeys your commands until you use this feature again. Intelligent undead are harder to control this way. If the target has an intelligence of 8 or higher, it has advantage on the saving throw. If it fails the saving throw and has an intelligence of 12 or higher, it can repeat the saving throw at the end of every hour until it succeeds and breaks free. The only reason I like this ability is because I imagine you eventually going into a situation where the Lich or the Demi-Lich or the Evil Wizard has created a Death Knight. And for you to be able to walk into that, make them make this saving throw, and failing, possibly, I will say that Death Knights do have decent charisma saves. But if they fail, even though their intelligence is high, they do have advantage on it, which means they have a very good chance of succeeding. But to then know that, hey, if they fail, for the next hour, that Death Knight will obey your every command. And it's friendly to you. I like that. The imagery, I like. The imagery of you walking in and having the big bad go, aha, look at this army of undead, and you just snap your fingers and its most powerful general, falls under your control. I like that idea. The problem is that there are so many stipulations here that I just don't think that we can really get behind it. The fact that it's like, hey, there's a number of undead, like the good undead, the undead you would actually want to force under your control are going to have an intelligence of 12 or higher, which means they are going to have advantage on that saving throw, which means they're going to have a pretty good chance of succeeding, and they're going to get it at the end of every hour, and you can only control one. So that means you gotta be real fucking picky and choosy with which one of these you use, and if you fail, then you just don't get to use it today. Like, if you fail, if they succeed on this saving throw, then you cannot use this feature on it again. That's a lot of stipulation for me for an ability that after an hour is probably going to end up failing. And you'll probably end up having to fight it anyway because, once you've taken control of the Death Knight, at some point it will probably break out and it will try to kill you. So You're going to have to kill it anyway at some point. It just takes off the battlefield right now. So I'm not saying it's horrible, just very situational, which I feel like I've said about every single one of its abilities, which is why it is in my D tier. All right, C tier, we have the Enchantment School. All right, Enchantment Savant, all right, half cost and time in order to create an enchantment spell into your spellbook. Hypnotic Gaze, at 2nd level, when you choose the school, your soft words and enchanting gaze can magically enthrall another creature. As an action, choose one creature that you can see within 5 feet of you. If the target can see or hear, it must succeed on a wisdom saving throw against your DC or is charmed until the end of your next turn. The charmed creature speed drops to 0, the creature is incapacitated and visibly dazed. On subsequent turns, you can use your action to maintain this effect, extending its duration. However, the effect ends if you move more than 5 feet away, if the creature can neither see nor hear you, or if the creature takes any damage. Once the effect ends, or if this creature succeeds on the initial save, you cannot use this feature on that creature again until you finish a long rest. This is okay. This is all right. I will say that this is something that could be used very beneficially because, if I recall correctly, if a creature has the incapacitated condition on them, then I am fairly certain that creatures within the 5 feet melee attack, I know they get advantage on the strikes, but I'm pretty sure if they are considered incapacitated, I'm pretty sure they are even considered auto crits. So, if you are willing to spend your action, which there's no limit to how many times you can use this. You can use this over and over again. You just, if it fails once, then you can't use it on that particular creature until you finish long rest, but it doesn't say, it just says on that creature. You can still use it on whoever the fuck you want. It just can't be that creature until a long rest is taken. So this might be one of those situations where, where you have a giant hill giant coming at you. You lock eyes with it. You make it make a wisdom saving throw. It fails, and it's now incapacitated. It's dazed. It stops moving. And then you let your paladin or big barbarian walk up there and just smite the ever fuck out of it, critting, doing a shit ton of damage, and then obviously now that it's taken damage, it can now no longer be, under this charm condition of you. But, you've done what you needed to do. You've done a shit ton of damage right out of the gate. This is a good ability. All right, I like it. I really enjoy this ability. I think it's really cool. And the fact that they don't give you a number of how many uses, it's just, hey, if someone does succeed, can't use it again on them, so use it on anyone else. I like it. Instinctive Charm. At 6th level, when a creature you can see within 30 feet of you makes an attack roll against you, you can use your reaction to divert the attack, provided that another creature is within the attacker's range. The attacker must make a wisdom save against your DC, and on a fail, they will target that other creature, not you or itself. If multiple creatures are closest, the attacker chooses which one to target. On a successful save, you can't use this feature on the attacker again until you finish a long rest. You must choose to use this feature before knowing the attack hits or misses. Creatures that can't be charmed or are immune to this effect. This sounds really, really good, but it's actually awful. Number 1, it requires you to be within 30 feet of an attack roll against you. Secondly, as far as I'm concerned, if something is worded, you must choose to use this feature before knowing whether the attack hits or misses. That sentence is kind of, that creates a little bit of contention here in the D&D community and the DM community, because I have seen some people interpret that as, okay, I roll the die, I tell you that it's a 19, but before I ask you, hey, does a 19 hit you? Then, hey, you haven't asked me that yet, so technically, according to the way that it's worded, I don't know if a 19, you don't know if a 19 hits or, doesn't on me, so I'm going to use this feature now. But after, the first round of combat, I know what your AC is. You know what the AC of my monster is. It's not a surprise. So I have always interpreted it when it says you must choose to use X feature before knowing whether the attack hits or misses. This is what I call a cult shot, which means you have to tell me, the DM, before I roll. I tell you, yep, the big bad is going to hit you. Then you have to immediately say, hey, I'm using this feature. Instinctive Charm. I'm using it. I don't know what he's attacking me with. I don't know what, I haven't seen the roll yet, but I'm using it. And that immediately makes this worse, because it means I could be using it on an attack roll that just doesn't hit me. However, I will say, being a wizard, with usually the best armor class being, mage armor 13 plus dex, odds are my dex isn't the best, I'm probably getting hit anyway. But still, just be aware that there is that sentence there, and depending on who your DM is, they may be like, yeah, that's a called shot, buddy. Like, you can't wait until after I tell you the number. You have to say it before I attack. The last bit that makes this not such a good ability is that it won't target itself or you, but someone must be within that creature's attack range. All right, someone has to be there. All right, provided that another creature is within the attack's range. What if it's just you and it? All right, like, okay, yes, you may prevent it from stopping, but what if you're not? What if it's you, it, and your, fucking cleric friend, or ranger friend, or rogue, or whoever? Now that creature gets the attack instead. You're just diverting it onto them, which I have just found that over time, usually if I'm, if we're getting hit, like, it's better to avoid all damage to everybody than this situation where it's, yeah, I'm avoiding damage, but I'm now having it attack another person that it wasn't going to attack before. So, it's not great. Okay, it's a good little ability to make you maybe not get hit, but it has all these stipulations. Someone else has to be there. 30 feet, uses your reaction. It's just a lot. Right, it's a lot of stipulations that may or may not exist. All right, split enchantment. At 10th level, you can cast an enchantment spell first level or higher on more than one target. All right, you can split it into 2. Okay. That's not horrible. Right, there's a decent amount of good enchantment spells out there that to be able to cast it on 2 different people, it's not bad. It's our 10th level, which is kind of sucky, but it's not horrible. Alright, Alter Memories. At 14th level, you gain the ability to make a creature unaware of your magical influence. When you cast an enchantment spell to charm one or more creatures, you can alter one creature's understanding so that it remains unaware of being charmed. Additionally, once before the spell expires, you can use your action to try to make the chosen creature forget some of the time it's spent charmed. The creature must succeed on an intelligence saving throw against your wizard spell save DC or lose a number of hours of its memory equal to 1 plus your charisma modifier. You can make the creature forget less time if you want, and the amount of time can't exceed the duration of your enchantment spell. So basically, you are removing the negatives of things like Charm Person. All right, Charm Person specifically says that, once, when the effect ends after the hour of Charm Person, the person knows that they've been charmed. So, that 1 hour may get you, out, through the guards, blockade. But after that hour, those guards are going to know that you've used Charm Person, and they are going to come after you. This removes that. All right. Not only do you make them, not only do you charm them, but you also are going to make it so that when this charm effect ends, they just forget the last hour. So they have no idea who the fuck, came through. Like, they, as far as they know, it's 10 o'clock, not 11. And then they're going to be very strange when it's like, wait, it's midnight already? How the fuck long have I been out here? I like this ability. I do. I like this ability. I think that there are a number of enchantment-based spells that do have the, once you use this, they know that they've been charmed, or if they fit, because it doesn't say failed or succeeded, I don't think. When you cast a enchantment spell on where you can alter creature's understanding of what it means to be unaware of the charm, additionally one spell, like nowhere does it say like the spell had to succeed. Basically, you're just adding a second saving throw. So what could end up happening is because there are spells such as Detect Thoughts that say that, in the process of me using it, the creature becomes aware. If they succeed on the saving throw, they immediately become aware that someone has just tried to detect their thoughts. So this could be a nice little like, oh shit, I tried to use this ability, it failed, now they're aware I tried to fuck with their brain. Intelligence saving throw, I'm going to make them forget the last hour so that they don't know what the fuck is going on and they're discombobulated and they don't know why they're here. It's kind of a nice little, oh shit, things are going bad button. It's not bad. There's good enough enchantment spells, way better than illusion spells in my opinion, which is why, even though this is a little situational, even though there are some things I'm like, is this really C tier? I cannot put this in, like, say, the necromancy school or the illusion school, because those to me are just so much more situational than this, that I gotta throw enchantment into C tier. So that is where we stand currently here at part 1 of the Wizard Spell School tier list. Hopefully you come back for part 2 as we continue our deep dive into the Wizard tiers. looking at the big boys for part 2, our B's, our A's, and of course our coveted S. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope that, maybe I can convince you that Wizard, for how great it is, that, even it has some flaws. And I will catch you next time.